6 months before the fall that broke her hip, Eleanor was already telling her family exactly what was coming. Nobody knew how to listen. Her daughter noticed it first on a walk to the car at a family barbecue. She'd gotten to the passenger door and turned around, and her mother was still halfway across the parking lot, taking small, careful steps. She waited, took her arm, and thought nothing of it. Over the following months, there were a dozen more moments like that, falling behind on the sidewalk, the long pause before crossing a street, the way family gatherings had started to move at her mother's pace without anyone saying so. Nobody wrote any of it down. Nobody mentioned it to a doctor. It just seemed like a woman in her 70s slowing down, which is what everyone expects. Then came the fall, the fractured hip, the surgery, the rehab, and the assisted living apartment her mother never left. And afterward, her daughter kept returning to that parking lot, because what she had watched that afternoon was not her mother getting older. It was one of the most reliable warning signals in all of geriatric medicine, and it had been visible, measurable, and actionable for half a year. That signal is walking speed. And here's what I want you to stay for. Before the end of this video, I'm going to give you a test that takes about 6 seconds, requires nothing but a tape measure and the stopwatch on your phone, and can be done with your parent tonight in the hallway. It's a version of the same test geriatricians use in clinic. It will tell you something about your parent's risk that no amount of watching and worrying will. Because here is the truth at the center of this video. How fast a person walks is one of the strongest predictors we have of falls, hospitalization, disability, and loss of independence in older adults. Researchers have called it the 6th vital sign, as meaningful as blood pressure or pulse, and almost no family ever checks it. Before we go further, this is something you can act on tonight, and it's most powerful when the whole family knows about it. Share this video with the family members who help care for your parent. And if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, do it now. Every week one published content exactly like this, clinical, honest, and built for families navigating the care of an aging parent. Subscribe so you don't miss what's coming. Let me explain why something as ordinary as walking speed carries so much information, because once you understand this, you'll never look at a slow walk the same way again. Walking looks simple, but it isn't. To walk quickly and confidently, a great many systems have to work together in real time. You need muscle strength in the legs and hips. You need balance and the constant micro-adjustments that keep you upright. You need joints that move without pain. You need a heart and lungs that can supply the effort. You need vision to judge the ground ahead. You need nerves conducting signals properly. And you need a brain that can plan movement, process the environment, and hold attention, which is why cognitive decline shows up in gait long before it shows up in conversation. That's what makes walking speed so powerful. It's not measuring one thing. It's a single number that reflects the combined health of nearly every system that keeps a person independent. When any of those systems starts to fail, the walk slows, often quietly, and often long before anything else becomes obvious. This is why the research on it is so striking. Slower walking speed in older adults is consistently associated with higher risk of falls, of hospitalization, of losing the ability to live independently, and of dying sooner. It predicts these things years in advance, and it does so more reliably than most of what families actually pay attention to Eleanor's slow walk across that parking lot wasn't a symptom of aging. It was a readout of her reserves, and her reserves were running low 6 months before her body proved it. Now, before I give you the test, let me tell you what else to watch for in your parents' walk, because speed is the headline, but the pattern tells you more. Watch for shortened steps, feet that barely clear the ground, a shuffle instead of a stride. This is one of the most common changes, and it dramatically increases the risk of catching a toe and tripping. Watch for a widened stance, feet placed further apart than they used to be, which is the body's instinctive attempt to compensate for poor balance. Watch for arms that no longer swing naturally at the sides, or a hand that reaches for walls, furniture, and railings, searching for stability that the legs are no longer providing. Watch for hesitation at thresholds, curbs, and doorways, or a long pause before starting to move. And watch for the moment your parent stops walking when they start talking. Needing to halt in order to hold a conversation is a well-recognized signal that walking has stopped being automatic and is now consuming real mental effort. Any of these, especially alongside a slowing pace, tells you the systems underneath are under strain. If you're finding this valuable, and I hope you are, take 1 second right now and hit the like button. It genuinely helps this content reach other families who are watching a parent slow down without knowing what it means. Like and keep watching. So here is the test. This is what I promised you, and I want you to actually do it. You need 3 things: a tape measure, the stopwatch on your phone, and a clear stretch of level floor, a hallway, a driveway, a long room. Measure out 4 meters, which is about 13 feet, and mark the start and the end. Then mark an extra couple of steps of space before the start line and after the finish line, and after the finish line, because you want your parent walking at a steady pace through the measured section, not accelerating or braking inside it. Ask your parent to walk from the beginning to the end at their normal, comfortable pace. Not fast, not showing off, just how they'd walk down a hallway on an ordinary day. They should use whatever walking aid they normally use. Start the stopwatch when their first foot crosses the start line, and stop it when the first foot crosses the finish line. Do it 2 or 3 times and take the best time. That's it. For most older adults, this takes about 5 or 6 seconds. Now, what does the number mean? The general reference point used in research and clinical practice is a walking speed of about 0.8 meters per second. Over a 4-meter course, that works out to roughly 5 seconds. So as a rough guide, if your parent covers those 4 meters in about 5 seconds or less, their walking speed is in a reassuring range. If it's taking meaningfully longer than 5 seconds, say 6, 7, 8 seconds or more, that's slower than the commonly used threshold, and it's worth a conversation with their doctor. 2 important cautions. First, this is a screening observation, not a diagnosis. A single number doesn't tell you what's wrong or what will happen, and plenty of things can affect one attempt on one day. Second, and more useful than any threshold, the trend matters more than the number dot. Do this test. Write down the date and the time, and repeat it every few months. A parent whose time is creeping up, 5 seconds in the spring, 6.5 by the autumn, is telling you something important, regardless of where they sit against any cutoff. And do it safely. Walk alongside your parent. Don't rush them. Don't let anyone feel tested or judged, and skip it entirely if they're acutely unwell or too unsteady to walk without hands-on help. In that case, the conversation with the doctor is the step, not the stopwatch. This is the moment where I want to ask you something directly. If you're planning to do this test tonight, share this video with your siblings and the others who help with your parent, so everyone knows the number and everyone's watching the same trend, and leave a comment below telling me what result you got. I read every one, and seeing what other families found may be exactly what pushes someone else to check. Subscribe if you haven't yet. Now the most important part, what to do if the result concerns you. Because this whole video would be cruel if the answer were nothing. The answer is the opposite. Slow gait is not a sentence, it's a signal, and in many cases it points to things that can be improved. Take the number to the doctor and be specific. I measured my parents' walking speed and it's slower than the reference range, and I've noticed changes in how they walk. Can we look into why? That framing turns a vague worry into a clinical question. Ask them to look for contributors: muscle weakness, joint pain or arthritis, vision problems, neuropathy, heart or lung issues, medication side effects causing dizziness or fatigue, vitamin D or B12 deficiency, and cognitive changes. Many of these are treatable, and treating them often improves the walk. Then ask directly for a physical therapy referral for gait, strength, and balance training. This is the single highest value request you can make, and most families never make it. Walking speed responds to strength training. The aging body can build muscle well into the 80s and 90s, and stronger legs mean a faster, steadier walk. Alongside that, the fundamentals I've covered on this channel do real work here. Daily walking, simple resistance exercise with sit-to-stands being the most valuable single movement, adequate protein at every meal to give the body material to rebuild muscle, and treating pain so it stops limiting movement. And measure again in a few months. That's the part that makes this genuinely powerful. You get to watch the number move in the right direction. Here's what your family can do. Tonight, do the test. 4 meters, normal pace, stopwatch. Write down the date and the time. This week. Watch the pattern, not just the speed, shuffling, wide stance, reaching for walls, stopping to talk. And if the result or the pattern concerns you, book the appointment and bring the number with you. This month, ask specifically for a physical therapy referral for gait and balance, and ask the doctor to look for treatable contributors. Get protein and daily movement in place at home. Ongoing, repeat the test every few months and track the trend. That trend is one of the most useful pieces of health information your family will ever have about your parent. Here's what I want you to carry with you from today. The most painful part of Eleanor's story isn't the fall. It's that her body was signaling clearly for 6 months, in a way her family saw with their own eyes a dozen times, and nobody knew that what they were watching was data. They had the information. They just didn't know it was information. You do now. And that changes what happens next in your family, because a slow walk stops being something you notice and feel vaguely worried about, and becomes something you measure, take to a doctor, and act on. So go find a tape measure. Mark out 13 feet in the hallway. Ask your mother or your father to walk it while you time them, and write the number down. 6 seconds tonight might buy your parent years of walking on their own 2 feet. If this video gave you something real, something you're going to do tonight, or share with your siblings, please take a moment to like it. Share it with the people who share your parents' care, because everyone should be watching the same trend. And leave a comment below with your result, what you're navigating, or what you wish you'd known sooner. I read every single one. And if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, please subscribe. This is where I publish honest, clinical, practical guidance for families trying to do right by the people they love every single week. Thank you for being here and for caring enough to watch all the way to the end. That attention is exactly what makes the difference. I'll see you soon.